Hi, this is Kunal from Noodle, and today I want to talk about funding. A lot of we all know what's happening in the tech sector. We're all excited about the tech sector in India. We see Flipkart, Zomato, India Mart, all of these companies getting funded, and as entrepreneurs of traditional businesses like let's say a property business. If you're running a property business like a hostel or a PG or an apartment complex, you generally don't assume that you would get funding in a similar manner, but that's actually not true because we know that some of these businesses are actually very sound businesses, and they attract a certain kind of investor. So of course startup investment is extremely risky. You could lose all your money. Property investment or property funding is less risky because, and so it appeals to a certain kind of investor. So there are two things, and a lot of business owners forget that. One is of course finding the right investor, which we'll talk about, and second is how do you talk and how do you engage with these investors? What are they looking for? And I think that's where a lot of these smaller businesses actually goes wrong. They go wrong because they assume that there's nobody out there to fund them. So of course we all understand that funding enables growth. For property businesses, you need to renovate, you need to you need to invest in systems, you need long-term leases, you might need to add F&B service, and if you don't do that, you actually keep falling behind, so competitors keep going ahead. So funding is a source of competitive advantage, and generally we've the sources of funding for property businesses have been either self-funded, which is a slow process, or going to banks. Now banks, the problem is they'll require collateral which is in the form of your property, which, and of course it's far more expensive and cumbersome. But there are private investors who are willing to put in money into property business, and I want to talk about that. And so as property owners, a lot of property owners actually fail at this. they're not they don't actually are not able to raise money from investors, or they don't even try. They feel like it's not something that's something that they need to do or want to do. And one is of course the perception. So I want to bust that myth that you can't raise money because we've run Perth service apartments for 7-8 years, and we've always been able to raise money. Of course it takes some, and I understand the difficulties. I understand the difficulties because there are certain questions and queries that private investors even up to you, and even if friends and family, let's say you go to a friend or somebody who's got a lot of capital, there are certain questions or there are certain things on their mind because of which they will not invest, and they will never tell you that because they don't want, of course they don't want to upset you or they don't want to spoil the relationship, but there are certain reasons why they don't do it, and I want to talk about that. The biggest reason is investors, whether it's a financial institution or private investor, want to be understood. Like they need, do you understand them? That's the primary thing. Do you understand what they're looking for? So if it's actually somebody who's willing to put in money into your property business, help you expand, they're generally looking for a steady return. They're not looking for a big 3 4 5x. They're looking for 10 15 20%. That's it. And of course the way you communicate will reduce your interest. So if it's 20%, and I'll show you how you can actually do that with better metrics, better reporting, you can actually bring it down to 10 or even less than that. And that actually will help you grow your business and maybe acquire another company. So there are a lot of these smaller businesses that are struggling right now. Maybe you're bigger in your area, you can acquire one of them and become bigger. So you have, let's say, from going from 10% market share of your area, you become 20-30%. It's all very possible. So one of the things that investors, and actually there are two things that they want to look for when you're looking at a property business: occupancy metrics, historical occupancy metrics. Where has your occupancy been historically? So if it's, let's say, if it's a service apartment, let's say it's always been 60%, even ups and downs, COVID, post-COVID, whatever. If the average 60% is actually good, 60-70%. And they want to monitor that because that's important for them, because you can't actually just go and say, okay, I don't know, occupancy will be something 100%, and people understand it's not going to be 100%. But if you have metrics around this, you can actually have discussions. Even if it's a family friend, you can say, this is my occupancy levels, this is what I do, I have the data to show it to you. So that makes it much easier. The second, and I think this is a very big area where a lot of property business struggle, is cash flow. Like cash flow, cash flow is the money that you generate minus the money that you spend, and it's very hard. There are three reasons why it's actually very hard. One is technically, you've got multiple sources of money coming in: online bookings, OTA bookings, cash bookings. You're also taking walking guests. It's all like very complicated, like multiple sources. You've got multiple accounts, bank accounts. So it's all fragmented. How do you actually say that, okay, my cash flow steady state at 60% occupancy is, let's say, whatever, 10 lakh rupees or 20 lakh rupees or, $100,000? It's very, very hard to do because they simply don't have that. And that is something, because unless you have cash flow, you don't have the ability to pay back the investor. And the investor knows that. The investor here, they're not a startup investor. They are focused on cash flow. They want to know that you have the ability to pay the loan back. And this is where a lot of people fall short, because they simply don't have it. They'll give you a bank statement, or they'll give you you show them something about tally, and that's very confusing. Like, it's like, what, like, you've got these 3 companies, 5 businesses, 5 different accounts. I can't even tell what's happening. And you confuse investors, and they will not take a decision. The biggest hindrance is confusion. If you can give clarity, 70% occupancy, I make $100,000. 80% occupancy, I make $500,000, or whatever. I'm saying at 40%, I'm breaking. So where I am, and if it's, let's say, you've got COVID and non-COVID, you can actually have specific discussions with your investors about this, and it's easy for you not just to raise funding but get more funding. So if you've got 2 properties, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, whatever, you can actually go keep on going. And from a technical perspective, it's very hard because you're generally using multiple, channel manager to manage the OTs. You've got a PMS system to manage your properties. You don't even know what's happening. What's the cash flow. You don't know what the occupancy is. You've got a separate tally or, QuickBooks or something for accounting. Then you may have a CRM. It just becomes a jumbled web. And this, again, confusion delays decision making. As an entrepreneur, simplicity. You've got a complicated business. You don't want complexity as far as your reporting and accounting is concerned. And that's why we built the last point. The promotional spiel is we built property management system. It's free for one property. Go out and try it. It's a SaaS-based solution, simple, easy to do, integrated tally. We're integrating with QuickBooks. I'll give you, once you start using it, I wouldn't say that it substitutes everything that you do, but it can specifically on the accounting and the property management part, you can actually have it and maybe work with any of the channel managers we integrate with. So you get cash flow, you get occupancy metrics, real time, exactly your outstanding, your bad debt. And these are things that you can share. You can print out reports and you can share that with your investors. And I'm sure once you do that, you will be able to win over any investor. They may not have the mandate to invest in a property business and an operating business. If you can even share that with your bank and financial institutions. So we're working with some financial institutions to get acceptance of these metrics. And of course, it's early days yet. But if you can do that, you will be on the road to success. So that's it from my side. And go online, try it out, give our system, and give us a shout out about what you like, what you don't like, what you think we should change. Thanks a lot. Good night.